WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. Another wonderful evening for all who visited College Park on Tuesday night. We had the Caps, we had the Wizards, the Terps all playing at the same time. Melo Trimble shows up, and Rutgers shows itself. They are who we thought they were, correct, Luke Jones?
Yeah, I'd say so, and not the most aesthetically pleasing performance from Maryland. I mean, I think you look at that first half, they were shooting right around 30% for most of the first half until they went on their late run with Kevin Huerter kind of being the straw that stirred the drink at the end of the first half. But you know, they were grinding it out. Melo Trimble was coming off of illness, missed practice on Monday. There was some question whether he was going to play. In fact, Mark Turgeon said he really wasn't sure because Trimble was that sick on Monday that they sent him home. But he played well, finished with 17 points, a much better performance for Maryland in the second half. Really played well, probably the first 10, 11, 12 minutes of the second half, and that ended up being the biggest difference in the game. But they just, that was a grind, but that's a Rutgers team that, look, they're not good by any means, but I do think they're a little bit better than they've been the last few years. They defend well, they rebound well. Certainly Maryland had their issues with Rutgers on the offensive glass, but
they've had their trouble with several teams in the offensive glass, right? That's part of their story right now is rebounding, right?
Well, it's just, they haven't had Michael Tchaikovsky. They're relying a ton on DeMonte Dodd, and when he gets into foul trouble, they really struggle because Ivan Bender, isn't Michael Tchaikovsky, so they've kind of struggled in that regard. But overall, I mean, the overall rebound totals weren't terrible. It's just a little bit too many second chance opportunities for Rutgers, and fortunately they don't have the offensive firepower to take advantage of that. So you look at it, 67-55, not an overwhelming performance, but it's another win. Maryland now 18-2, their best start since the Steve Francis year back in 1999, and who would have thought that? With all of the losses that they sustained at the end of last year and starting three freshmen. Mark Turgeon even said after the game, he was asked about the fact that this team's off to its best start in 18 years, and he said, look, no one really could have anticipated this, and has part of it been because of a soft non-conference schedule? Absolutely. It's also because the Big Ten is down this year, but at the same time, they've taken care of business, and they've, other than the Nebraska game, they've won the games they were supposed to win, and even with that game taken into account, they have 2 losses on the season. So I think you have to be really, really happy with what you've seen, and I think even though Melo Trimble led the way on Tuesday night, for me, the best player on the floor for Maryland was Kevin Huerter for large stretches of that game. Tremendous passing, finished with 6 assists, had 11 points, was a really consistent, solid performer, and Turgeon said after the game, they're really trying to get the ball in his hands a little bit more. It's tough because you have Trimble, you have Anthony Cowan, two guys who can handle the ball well. Jalen Brantley's played better of late coming off the bench. So it's not as though Kevin Huerter is going to handle the point or anything like that, but he's clearly a kid who can pass the ball, sees the floor really well, and just another one of those freshmen to be really excited about. So at the end of the day, again, a choppy effort. They had stretches of this game where they didn't play well, but certainly played well enough to win, and they come away with a victory.
Luke Jones joining us here. You can always reach him, Baltimore Luke, as well as Luke at WNST.net. He was at the Maryland game. You mentioned Huerter, and I know you've given him props. I've given him props. He never disappears, right? I mean, he is a core member of this team now. It feels like he's going to start 32 minutes a game for the next 3 years. It doesn't feel like he's looking at the NBA just yet, although, who knows with his game. But, we always talk about his basketball IQ, and I know Turgeon mentions that. There was a point in the game, late in the game, and they were up by 10 or 12 points, and Maryland got a rebound down on the other end, and they didn't get a whole lot of those, especially not early in the game. And Cowan wasn't around, and I don't think Trimble was on the floor. I think Trimble was out because it was midway through the second half. And Huerter grabbed the ball and just started going up the court with it like Larry Bird. And the fact that he can handle the ball so well, he doesn't have to do it a whole lot. I mean, you can see his vision. You can see he's got a nice shot. You can see that he works hard at rebounding. But we haven't seen him lug the ball a whole lot. Maybe earlier in the year, against some of the lesser lights, the Jacksonville State types. But I mean, he can dribble the ball if he has to. He was a point guard in high school.
Yeah, I mean, and that was just the point I was just making, that Mark Turgeon even said they want to try to get him the ball a little bit more. And that's not to have him play point guard, but to take advantage of his passing. I thought perhaps the most critical sequence of the game was late in the first half. Maryland had fallen behind. I think Rutgers built their lead up to 3. You know, it's not as though they were in trouble, but clearly not what they were expecting. Clearly didn't want to go into half trailing Rutgers, playing at home. And Herder gets a bucket, and then on consecutive possessions, cross-court passes for assists. I mean, that's just, that's impressive from a freshman wing player. You talked about it. I mean, we've seen him hit outside shots. Clearly plays good defense. He can rebound a little bit. He's averaging right around 5 boards per game. But Cowan and Justin Jackson have, they're averaging more points per game. But I think Herder just does so many of the little things, and for a freshman, and I'd say the same thing about the other two as well. I don't want to say that they don't have this, but you just see the basketball IQ there. It's there. For an 18-year-old kid, it's really impressive to see that. And I thought that sequence where he had a bucket and then 2 assists, 3 straight possessions to close the first half. I mean, that was huge. It put Maryland back on top. They went ahead by 5 going into intermission, and from that point you kind of felt like, okay, even if they're not going to run away from Rutgers, they're fine. They're going to win this game. It might not be the prettiest. They didn't shoot the ball well in the first half, but he was the straw that stirred the drink at the end of the half, and it's pretty impressive to see that when you have so many other point guard options. It's clear he's not going to handle the rock a whole lot, but you can just see the passing that he had. And, in general, Maryland passed the ball very well across the board. Despite the fact that they had the turnovers that they had, I think their first 20 field goals, there were 14 assists. That just shows you they were moving the ball that well. And that's something that, not just with Kevin Herder, but across the board, to see Maryland function the way they have offensively this year after talking almost on an annual basis about Mark Turgeon's half-court offenses and just wondering what it was. Was it him? Was it the players? You can tell he finally has his guys. He finally has some guys that really can function at a high level in the basketball court, and it's been fun to watch. And you're seeing why, despite the fact that I think there's still some question how good Maryland is, there's no question that they are good. So it's been a lot of fun to watch, and I think another story to, in what was a pretty nondescript game, not a whole lot you're going to take
I called
away.
it garden variety.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, grinded out, workmanlike, whatever you want to call it. But 2 things that I did like seeing: Dion Wiley and Michael Tchaikovsky getting back on the floor. Wiley's been sick. Tchaikovsky, of course, has had a couple different injuries. Tchaikovsky back on the floor for the first time, I think, since December 20th.
He was in a walking boot the last time I saw him. 2 weeks ago.
The Charlotte game in Baltimore when he got, that was the last time he had played. Only played a few minutes. I mean, nothing to say from what we saw on Tuesday night, but just speaks to Maryland getting healthier, getting to the point where they're close to being at full strength again. And when you're saying that about a team that's already 18-2, already leading the Big Ten with a 6-1 conference record, that's exciting. That shows you there is a higher ceiling for this ball club, and that's really exciting as you're getting ready to get into the month of February.
Well, and get ready to get on the road. Luke Jones joining us here. We're talking all things Maryland basketball. Terps win 67-55 over Rutgers on Tuesday night down at College Park in front of a sold-out crowd. It felt like a Big Ten light game because of the Rutgers part of this, but you start to examine some of this stuff. Tchaikovsky getting back in and just, blowing the farts off, so to speak. Dodd gets 25 minutes. Where are those minutes going to come for Tchaikovsky? I mean, do you expect him in there 18, 20, or do you really expect him to go out there and by the end of this be running 28, 30 minutes a game?
I mean, I don't think he'll be in that 28 to 30 minute range. I think Ivan Bender, the minutes that he's getting, Tchaikovsky's going to get some of those. I mean, Bender played, 14 minutes on Tuesday night. Dodd's still going to be the guy.
Dodd's been okay. Dodd's been. But
he's had a really nice year. I mean, defensively, passes the ball well for a big man. He's not a big scorer. They don't need him to be a big scorer. Just protect the rim. But I think Tchaikovsky fits into probably the former of the 2 options you suggested. Probably a guy 15 maybe 20 minutes. I mean, a lot's going to depend on if Dodd gets into foul trouble early. Then you could see Checo a little bit more. But I think it's clear they need him. They really need that front court presence. They need someone else who can score in the paint. They need someone else to rebound. Which, if there's one thing that you consistently point to with this team that's been a concern, despite the fact that they've continued to win, it has been their rebounding. So clearly that's where he fits. And I don't think you're going to see him being a guy that's going to play 25, 30 minutes unless something happens to Dodd or he's really in foul trouble. So I think it's going to take him some time. With having he's had issues with his legs. So when you have that, you can't practice. It's tough to stay in shape from a cardio standpoint. So it's going to take him a little bit of time to build up his minutes, build up his stamina. He's missed roughly a month or a little over a month, I guess. So that's probably where he's heading. I think he fits into that rotation. Seventh, eighth man, something like that, most likely, and a nice compliment to what Damonte Dodd's been able to do for them this year.
They are the 22nd ranked team in the country right now, the Terps, with a 67-55 win on Tuesday. Now they hit the road, and this is where it gets a little cold in the wintertime. I know the weather's going to be dipping. Off to Minnesota and the Barn on Saturday, where they laid a golden egg, dare I say, last year. Then on to Ohio State on Tuesday night. They come back home next weekend against Purdue on Super Bowl Sunday. That is a noon kick there, or tip there, I should say, and Purdue now in the top 25. So, and then back out to the road again to Penn State. I mean, really a huge road load here. Only 2 out of the next 7 at home.
Yeah, and some of these games sneaky. Minnesota, I mean, they're much better than they were last year. They beat Purdue on the road not too long ago. They lost to Wisconsin by 2 in their most recent game. So that's a team that you got to be careful with, especially on the road. So this is a Maryland team that is going to be on the road some. They've won on the road, so that should give them some confidence. Certainly they'll play at Ohio State, then they come home, play Purdue. We know that's going to be a challenging game. Purdue with its front court, that poses a challenge. So you hope by that point in time, Tchaikovsky's practice, build up more stamina, is closer to being himself, so to speak. And even Penn State, some sneaky performances there for Penn State. Beat Michigan State not too long ago in Philadelphia. So it's a big stretch for Maryland. I think again, it's not to say they're not a good team, but there is some question how good they are because of the schedule that they've played. We just don't know how good they are. This will be a stretch that if Maryland comes out of this one and they win 4 of their next 5 and they're still sitting there with just 2 losses in the conference, then I think everyone kind of looks at them and say, okay, this team's absolutely for real, absolutely very, very dangerous going into the Big Ten tournament, and I think they can improve their seeding. I know for as much as people might roll their eyes, Joe Lunardi with his bracketology, I think came out earlier this week. He had Maryland as a 6th seed, and that's just a reflection that they haven't played a whole lot of tough competition. So I think win some of these road games, continue to handle their business, and Maryland continues to put themselves in position to not only make the tournament, but get a pretty nice seed and set themselves up to make a nice little run. Maybe get back to the Sweet 16 again. Who knows? When you have freshmen and you have freshmen who are playing at a high level and continue to get better, it's hard to put a cap on the ceiling. It's just fun to watch it, and this Maryland team much, much better than I think any of us would have imagined at the beginning of the season, that's for sure.
I got to smile, man. You're talking bracketology, and we're headed off to the Super Bowl on Sunday. So
yeah,
I'm all good with that. I'm good with that. I like that.
Yeah, and like I said, no one's talking about Maryland being a number 1 seed or anything like that, but they're putting themselves in excellent position now. They're close to the, approaching the halfway point in Big Ten play, and they're atop the conference. And we know this isn't a great Big Ten this year, but this is a good Maryland team. How good still remains to be seen, but I'll surely take this over talking about them being firmly on the bubble or outside the bubble right about now.
Saturday. They take on Minnesota out at the barn. We will be watching out at WNST.net. You can follow Luke at Baltimore Luke on Twitter, as well as Luke at WNST.net. Me, you can reach me, Nasty at WNST.net, anytime, anywhere. Our London trip is now on sale and selling briskly, I might add. You can throw me an email over. You can just go to the Road Trips tab up at WNST.net. We're also out on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. We're streaming live on Facebook Live as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel, and we'll be in Houston, Texas next week at Super Bowl 51. So we'll be there for all of that and more. Anything you miss, you can find in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Just download the TuneIn radio app. It's all brought to you by BuyAToyota.com. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. That is brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. It's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there. And you can also go to Planet of Triumphs and get a little inspiration out there on the web as well. Last but never least, any breaking news? Ravens, Terps, Orioles, trades, things, signings. No rumors, though. Never rumors. Only facts. We're like, and not the alternative facts, real facts at WNST.net. Just join the text service. It comes in crystal clear, and it's always brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis Kolatzis will be here with True Live Facts on Thursday, driving you home, getting you ready for the weekend and Senior Bowl and Terps in Minnesota and any NHL, anything else you're going to watch this weekend. Luke and I are headed to Houston. We can't wait. We'll be there beginning Monday on the floor. You want to follow our live feeds on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.